All right, so this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about current and planned support for the other OSs. We're going to mainly focus on Windows, Mac, and Solaris, and then we're going to just demonstrate a few of the command line utilities. So this is our support for Windows. Currently, the only thing that runs on Windows is the minion. There's problems with the 0MQ running on Windows, so we can't natively support the master. Yeah?
Are there problems with rate on Windows?
Now, supposedly, when they finally push out rate, that may fix some of the issues, and there may be a master, but we're not telling anybody that because we don't want to be held to that. If we can get it to work, then hey, we'll have a master on Windows, but there's no guarantee there.
We have rate on Windows, but it's not, how should I put it, stable enough yet to show. But that's the intention.
Yeah. So we officially support 2008 and up in Windows. It does work on 2003 and XP and those. There may be some additional redistributables that you have to install, but we don't officially support that. It's kind of community supported. If you need it to work and you find a way to get it to work, you can push those up, do a pull request, and help support the community. As we move along and working with Windows, like I said, I just got hired to kind of focus on Windows. They've kind of let it slip because they've only had one Windows guy, and he's been pulled in a million other directions. You know Dave Boucher, some of you. And he kind of got it working, but it was just a real rough fix. So me and him are now going to work to try to get things work a little smoother with Windows and try to make sure that things that work in Linux also work in Windows. There's also another open source project called Chocolatey that does a lot of package management. I'd never heard about it before I came to Salt, so that's why I'm telling you about it here. They package all kinds of software, and it's an open source project, and if you can make it a Chocolatey package and push it up, then it'll be available for everybody. So it's a pretty sweet way to distribute software. And then we're going to start looking into integrating with PowerShell, the DCM, which is Desired State Configuration Management for configuring your Windows servers. We're also currently working on an MSI installer for the minion so that you can push this out through group policy, Active Directory, SCCM, whatever package management system you guys are running. For Mac is currently community support only. Because it's BSD based, a lot of it works just because it's more open source than Windows, but there are some things that don't work. You install it using Homebrew or Mac ports, and it is going to remain a community support. However, a lot of our developers use Macs, and so they fix a lot of things on it as they're going along. We are working on a Dmg installer as well. I'm a Windows guy. I'm not a Mac guy. I don't even know what a Dmg installer is. So,
Okay, on Unix. Again, we currently only support minions. We only support masters on Linux, but you know how Unix and Linux are so similar. You can probably get away with running a master on most of the Unix platforms because the underlying infrastructure is pretty much the same. But officially, we only support minions. We're going to support Solaris 10 and 11, both Spark and x86. At the moment, we support it with a 32-bit implementation using bbfreeze and SKI. So freeze the Python interpreter that we're using and ship it as a 32-bit tarball. That you download, expand, and do package add to install it. On AIX, we currently support AIX 6 and 7, and basically we ship it as a base 64 encoded string, which you can either extract the tarball out of it and use an installer that way, or use the all-in-one installer and install it in one go. You have to watch out for issues with, have you set all your file systems in AIX so that you can install it, there's enough room for it, and also watch your U limits. The planned support for Solaris is again to keep up Spark and x86 on Solaris 11 and to utilize the image packaging system that was introduced with Solaris 11, or they have a real packaging system. We're going to leverage that. There's already a package provider for IPS on Solaris 11 in Salt module Solaris IPS. So I saw recently Solaris 12 is supposedly coming out in 2016, and end of life for Solaris 10 around 2018 or 2020. I've seen two various dates, so it's time we move forward and use IPS. On AIX 6 and 7, we're going to package it up using file sets, so you can use SMIT and install P to install it, just like you would any other package on AIX. And we need to do a package provider for AIX that gives at least a certain level of functionality. A minimum list packages anyway, install. And at the moment, we don't have support for HPUX, but we plan on supporting it. We'll do HPUX 11 for the integrity platform, which the IA 64-bit platform. We won't do the PA RISC because that's really end of life by this time. It's only another year or two to run on it. And we'll utilize HP's product specification files to provide an installer for the package. And again, we'll have a provider package for HPUX to do the various package list, install, remove.
All right, so now we're going to go through installing Salt on each of these platforms. So this is the basic steps for installing Salt on pretty much any platform. Install the prerequisites, install Salt, and then configure Salt. So we're going to go through those on each of these. So for Windows, the only prerequisite is the Visual C++ 2008 redistributable, and it's a part of the Salt setup exe. So if you run it, it goes out, grabs the redistributable, installs it, and then installs Salt. And then for configuring the minion, all you need is the IP address of the master and a name for your minion. And that's all in the dialog boxes that you click through as you're installing Salt. It does. It goes out to the internet for that. What you can do is, if you need to do this offline, you just go download that redistributable and install it beforehand, and then run it. It'll fail, but it'll continue to install Salt. It'll fail because it can't find the internet and can't download it, but then it'll continue through the setup process and go ahead and install Salt. And like I said, it's an EXE right now made with Nullsoft, so it just however Nullsoft handles things. So let's go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so we're gonna have to. So all we have is some virtual machines running here. Great. The what?
The Linux box, the master.
We have that set up, don't we? Where the heck is it? It's right here,
No,
but it's
that one there. It's not loading it.
well, it is there, but it's do what? Sorry.
You select it and you do the alt space bar, the dialog box, and you can move it over on a different monitor.
Okay. Oh, crap. So you hit Alt space. Well, I did it wrong, didn't I? Alt space bar. Just use the arrow keys.
Just close it and bring it up and open it again.
It's probably telling me. All right, we're going to have to spin it up again. So.
Why don't you do it for the Ubuntu box while you're at it?
Okay. Did the Ubuntu one come up, though?
It's not showing up.
Okay.
We were playing with the monitors earlier, and it's obviously off on some other monitor than the one that we were using.
Well, it's still over there.
So just closing it down
It's still
and reopening it back up.
Do I go left or right? I don't even know which side it's on.
You're the Windows guy.
Yeah, I know.
This was a loaner laptop because I was worried about the Wi-Fi here.
If I knew the IP address. Nice. I don't want safe mode. Start Windows normally. All right, there we go. Now will I get it back? No. Okay, so that's how we're going to have to do this. So while that's booting, let's do Ubuntu. There we go. So this is our master right here. We're just going to get the IP address off of it so we can put that in our Windows.
And start the master. Sudo.
It's already
It's already
running. Okay. Whenever you get that unable to bind, that means you already got it running.
Do a salt key.
What's that?
43.5.
Okay.
Got
So we're up.
Got no keys accepted at the moment, so should see some once the Windows box comes up, as in usual fashion.
All right, so we're going to have to maximize it. Okay, so we're going to go out to the SaltStack website. All the executables for Windows are on docs.saltstack. Yes. /downloads. This is a list of all the versions that have ever been compiled for Windows. And we're going to get our latest version, which is 7.2 for 64-bit. And we're going to save it. You have problems if you run it directly. All right, so we go ahead and run it. There are some switches for it, but and you can send the IP address and the name and everything. So here's where we enter the 40, and we're going to call it Windows Minion. So now it's downloading the redistributable. Like I said, that'll just fail out if you're on a closed network. It's installing it with a quiet install. All right, so it doesn't matter if you check that checkbox or not. It's going to start the minion no matter what. So now we need to, I want to run it in debug mode to kind of show you everything that it does. So I need to go kill the service. What did I do, run it twice? We're just going to kill it here. Okay, so we start a command prompt. in admin. Does have to run as admin. And we do have to CD. Everything gets stalled in the salt. Salt is where everything gets put. All your config files are sitting under the conf directory there. And so now that we're here, all we do is type salt-minion -L debug. So that'll run in debug mode. So it generates a key, and it's going to sit there every 10 seconds and keep trying to authenticate to your master. So we're going to minimize this. We're going to look back on our master here, and we're going to do a salt. Oh, didn't I do that? Sudo su. I thought I did that already. Oh, we didn't. Okay. So we look at the keys, and we see we have one unaccepted key called winminion. Can you guys see that? It's the red. I don't even know how to change the colors of this. Can you do it? From Ubuntu, from a root? Well, we'll accept it.
You'll see. It'll be a nice green color when it's accepted.
Yeah, so capital A will accept all keys. That way you don't have to type in the name of the key. So we're just going to accept all, and it confirms it. And now if I do a salt key, you see the green now says winminion underneath it. So we've now accepted our key. And if we look back over at our Windows box here, it did a whole bunch of stuff, and it's not asking anymore. Yeah. Okay, so now that's up. We can do a test to make sure that that it's returning. So we're going to do salt star test.ping. And we get a winminion equals true. So we're communicating with our Windows minion. So that's not too tough, is it? Okay, now we're going to talk about installing Salt on the Mac. This took me a little while to get this set up because of the prerequisites. It requires some developer tools, Xcode, which is a 2.5 gigabyte download. You get it from the App Store. I'm not a Mac guy, so it took me forever to figure that out. And then Homebrew is another trick to install. You go to their website and they have you run this Ruby curl command, and then it requires you have to add an SSL key, a .pem file in the .ssh folder, else it doesn't recognize the HTTPS. It's kind of a hassle. It took me like 2 hours just to get the prerequisites all set up on our demo box here. But once that's in, it's slick. You just do a brew install SaltStack, and it downloads Python and installs SaltStack, and it's pretty slick. And it actually runs the master. When I was demoing, I was actually running the master on the Mac and sending all my commands out from the Mac. I didn't have an Ubuntu box when I was goofing around with it. So it all seems to work on it. But we'll see some of the discrepancies later on when we do some of the functional stuff. But the one thing you do have to do is manually edit the config file and enter the IP address and the name for the minion. So we'll go ahead and do that now. It's part of, so when you compile Salt, it compiles all the Python modules and everything and makes them executables, so it's not dependent on Python on the Windows box.
On the other platforms, we typically have everything bundled together so that we can be sure that you don't have this, oh, I've got to go get this, oh, I've got to go get that. Everything's there, and we know that everything's going to work together.
And you ship them to your minions? They'll still get all your modules that you write. It pushes them all down. Yeah. You do a publish, like a publish states or something. I can't remember the exact command. But you run that from your master, and it'll push all your minions. Will pull the modules.
No, this is for when installing the minion onto the other platform. Once
Right,
everything is there.
He's asking about when you pull a custom module. If he makes a custom module, sends it down. I don't know on that. I'll have to ask. I can ask Dave. Yeah, because it requires Python. It's a Python script, and does it read the Python script? I don't know. Was that your question?
My bet is that since we're pushing down a Python interpreter with the Salt minion, so that the Salt minion's running everything through the the Python 2.7 interpreter that we built with it, that it should work fine, leveraging the Python interpreter that the Minion is making use of. But we'll check with Dave.
Isn't there a keystroke to make stuff bigger?
Control-Shift+.
Control-Shift+. Oh, I don't know.
Didn't work on,
Okay. Can you guys still see it? No, it's really small, isn't it?
I think View.
I know, but it's like
No,
one
it's View and
and bigger, and then view, and bigger, and then view, and bigger.
you forget a key.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Brew. I've already installed the prerequisites on this. Brew install, and it's actually the full SaltStack. So it's going out and grabbing the tar balls and unzipping them, and it's pouring them because it's brew. It pours your tar ball. Pouring 0MQ.
We're actually tethered to a smartphone so that we can get faster speed.
So grab the two requisites there, 0MQ and libyaml, and now it's pulling down SaltStack, and it's going to install that. Okay, so now we've installed Salt, and so now we've got to add our config parameters in the minion file. And all that stuff, again, is it looks in etc salt. And that folder doesn't exist, so we need to create it. So we're going to do make dir etc salt. Dang it. And sudo. Sudo.
And not salty.
Yeah. Etc salt. Okay. Dang it. Okay, so now I don't have to keep typing that. Okay, so now we have that directory. We can just vim, and we call this file minion. And we just type master, and the IP address, was it 43.5? And then we want to give it a name, so its ID is the key for the name. We'll just call this Mac Minion. And that's it. Okay, so now we're going to start. Now you don't have, it actually puts it in the path here, so we just start it. Salt Minion -L debug. So it reads our config file, it generates the keys, and it starts trying to connect. Let's see if I can leave that up while we're working on the Ubuntu.
If you do alias,
Okay, so it's sitting there. We're going to salt key with a capital A and accept. And you see now we have two. We have a Mac and a Win minion in our list. So let's do a salt test.ping. And we get two returns. We have a Mac minion and a Win minion up now. Okay, so.
AIX. We don't have a demo for AIX because we're using VirtualBox at the moment, an x86-based VirtualBox, and Mac, Windows, the Linux, and the Solaris we're using is x86, and of course AIX uses PowerPC, so we can't really demonstrate in this VirtualBox. And given the connectivity here, I thought it would be problematic to try and get out to an AIX box. But essentially, if you're interested in the AIX package, you need to contact SaltStack to obtain it. You download it into local directory, and it's for the all-in-one installer. Essentially, you just run it as it's shown there. Install Salt 2014.1.11-1 ax.sh, and it will take the base64 encoded string, extract the gzip tarball out of it, and then install it. Or alternatively, there's a -d for deep delta, which will extract the tarball for you, and you can run the install-salt-p and the tarball, and that will install it for you. Given the memory limitations in some AIX boxes, the all-in-one tarball consumes quite a bit of memory when it's doing the extraction and the base decoding from the 64-bit string. Just go back one. Issues again are making sure that the volumes that you have got enough space. When it's developing it, there was typical with IBM's Power Developer platform. The typical box VM they give you has got basically no sizes at all in it, and you've got to extract and expand everything. They give you enough space, but the base file systems are all tiny. And also, you need to up your U limits. Yes. I'm sorry?
Is that kept current with each new salt release?
Yes, it'll be like the other salt releases. It'll be kept current with all of them. It's one of the reasons they hired me. I'm a Unix. My title is Unix engineer, so it's up to me to get the IX, Solaris, HP, UX all building along with all the Linux platforms. So maybe not straight away, but eventually they'll all be done in tandem. With Solaris, we can demo that. Again, if you're interested in the Solaris packages, please contact Salt. It's available, but just have to talk to them. Again, it's basically download into a local directory. Because Solaris 10, tar that ships with Solaris 10 can't handle the gzip tarball, we've got a gunzip salt and then tar extract. And then we can do a package add to install it using Solaris's 10 old packaging system. Similarly, again, to configure the salt, we update the minion, set the IPv4 address or the DNS address for the master, disable the salt minion, and then enable the salt minion, like there to start it up. I'll disable the salt minion to make sure, and I'll start it up by hand with the -l debug so you can see everything that's going on. And if you want to check the minions running, of course, null ps and grep to see the salt running. So let's start with the demonstration.
Okay. Which one is it? It's that one.
Can I drive?
Yeah. Pretty tiny. Can you make it bigger? There we go.
So that might be a little too large. So I've already pre-downloaded the package, and I'll unzip it and then expand the tarball. So see the salt directory there? That contains everything ready for for me to do a package add. If I do a package info, you'll see it's not installed, and then I'll do a package add -d to describe this device. And And that basically installs the script with post install, and everything's ready to go. We just need to go edit the minion configuration file in etc salt. I'm just being careful, making sure everything's down.
So this one actually copied the config files in there, so that's why it has all this other commented stuff in there. So just go and edit it.
Similar to Linux.
Yeah.
And again, it's starting up the minion with debug logging, and we get to see that it's gone out, generated its keys, and it's waiting for the master.
I think it's the black one in the back there. Yeah. Whoops. Oh.
Well, obviously the no color didn't work. Again, the sol minion is unaccepted, and if we just go through with the dash capital A, because I'm lazy with typing, and we have it. If we do a ping, we'll see all three of them that are, well,
It takes a little
There.
time sometimes. Once you accept the key, it takes some time for the. If you do it again, they'll all three.
There we
come
are.
up.
All three of them are there. We can do some other commands. For example, and we'll see the Mac has got a few. Some of the differences in the packages are the fact that it depends on the platform. For example, the Mac is basically giving us some of the stuff that we've installed. Well, I didn't have enough scroll buffer. Sun is giving you everything that it has, and Windows is just going to give you everything above and beyond the base operating system. You can see the browser that I installed, the Microsoft Visual C++ redistributable, and some updates. Do you want to do some more? Since you're a better typist.
Okay, so now we're just going to run through some of the functionality. How much time do we have? Oh, we got like 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, so these are some of the things we're going to run through, and we're going to see which stuff works in which operating system, what each one of returns us. So I'm going to kind of try to keep it there. The problem is if I hide this, it goes clear to the other screen. All right, so we'll do a disk usage. Let's do that one. Salt all disk.usage. So the Windows box gives us the file system, gives us some information about the available space. The D is your CD-ROM. Mac gives us nothing, and the Solaris doesn't give us anything. So those modules need to be more developed out for these, for the other two. There's some other ones here. How do I get over there quick? Let's do, we did list packages. Let's do network interfaces. So this actually works pretty good on all of them. This shows you our Intel adapter on our Mac, and our Solaris minion. They all returned our interfaces, and I think we can look at the actual IP address too, IP_adder. Did I do it wrong?
S.
think I did it wrong. It's network.ip. Network.ip.
Address is IP underscore
Oh, it's
ADDOS.
is it? ADDR network. Oh, maybe I did it. Is it the whole thing?
No. Try ADDOS.
Really? Okay. All right. So it gave us our IP address for each of them. So some of it works and some of it doesn't on each of these. So let's look at grains. That shows different for each of these. So if we want to look at all of the grains, we just do grains.items. That's going to give us all the grains for all of them. And we're going to max it out here. Or are we? No, we're at network interfaces here. So there's our Win minion grains. Our OS is Windows here. And we're going to, our OS family.
Yeah, grain item.
We'll do an item. We're going to look for a specific one here. So let's do grain item OS. That'll let us just look at one instead of having to scroll through all those. So the Windows one return Windows, the Mac return Mac OS, and Solaris return Solaris. So we can use those to filter when we're trying to call specific groups of minions on these. Let's see what else we can do here. Let's add a user. So what was that? That was user.add. We can do test user. So it says it created them on all of them. But I'm not sure on this. Let me see. We're going to do a list users now. A user list users. See if it actually did. Did I underscore? Sorry. List underscore users. All right, so the Windows minion, it added test user. That's not even available on Solaris, so we can't really check. And it did install it, puts it up at the top on this. So there's our test user on Mac. Now the problem with the Mac one is it creates a test user, but it doesn't give it a password, and you can't log into it. You might be able to shell in with it. And you go and you look in Mac, and it doesn't show up in the GUI as far as a list of users. The Windows one works great, and you can actually change the password and do all the stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and set the password on the Windows, and it uses shadow. So we're gonna shadow.set. Was it underscore? Or was it just set? Password, and then you put the username, and then the password. So you can't set the password in Mac, and I think you actually have to generate like a hash for Mac to get it to work. The Windows one, it just works. Solaris said it worked, but I don't know how to test it with Solaris. And if we could have gotten our displays right, we could show all the minions up, and you can actually see the debug running on all these. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, so given that I think probably everybody in this room has to deal with Cisco iOS, and I don't think maybe any of us have ever seen an instance of AIX in production, how do we get OSs that people use support?
OSs that people use?
Like Cisco iOS.
Yeah.
It would be really great to be able to manage my switch passwords with Salt.
With Salt and have a minion on.
But I've never even heard of anybody touching an AIX instance. So
Believe it or not, there are a lot of people that use DB2 and AIX in large banking institutions. People like JP Morgan, healthcare companies and stuff. So there's quite a bit of it out there. And I can't see, because large institutions are very reluctant to change their platforms, we're going to see Solaris, HPUX, and AIX around. I think you'll see it like COBOL. Who believed that COBOL would still be alive in the 21st century? But there it is.
but are those kinds of institutions the ones that are adopting Salt?
We've had a couple of requests. The AIX. No. The AIX, the reason the tarball came about was because there was a large institution that asked us, based here in Utah. And so we're getting a bit of push for AIX to have it there. Because, like, believe it or not, VMs have been around for years on power systems. So it isn't a new technology as far as AIX is concerned. And the ability to be able to manage those is quite large, especially that it's open source. And IBM's notorious for not wanting to pay for anything. You know, if they can have it, that's great. Yes? Let me ask, has anybody here in the audience, do they use Solaris, AIX, or HPUX at all? And so Solaris, 10 or 11? Both. AIX, what versions? 6 and 7. And HPUX? Well, the pecking order is AIX and Solaris, so, but we rounded out with HPUX as well, because a lot of banks use HPUX.
Okay. I think we're at 5:30 now, so
Yep.
we're going to go ahead and close. So I showed you some of these because they're kind of some real world scenarios that would have helped me in my last job where I had to go around and reset some local administrative passwords on 300 Windows boxes because somebody stole some information, and so we had to go around and change passwords. You know, and then restarting services. I didn't get to it, but that's pretty cool that you can do that on all your machines. Restarting services works on Windows. The only one you can't restart is the Salt minion, because the way it works right now in Windows is it sends a stop and it sends a start, and once it stops itself, it can't send the start. There's no restart because it's just shelling it out right now, and there's no restart from the DOS shell. So if we do, we'll have to change it over to PowerShell or something else, and then we can send a restart.
Yes? That would work, huh? Run the other. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, there was another question? Well, FreeBSD is already there from the community, just like all the different flavors of Linux. You know, how you've got Arch, Gentoo. I think the three main Linuxes that are really out there would be Red Hat, Red Hat CentOS, the Ubuntu Debian family, and then the SUSE family, kind of is attached to the Red Hat CentOS to a certain extent. And then there's all the community-based ones like, as I said, Arch, Gentoo, Slack, the BSDs.
Okay. Oh, this is what we've covered, current plan support and how to install these on these three platforms that we had, and then we showed a few of the commands that we can run from the command line.
I just remembered, the Bootstrap also handles BSDs as far as I believe.
Is there any questions? Any other questions? Shameless plug for the GUI.
One of the places that, one of the reasons we included this slide was because
I'm a Windows guy. I like a GUI.
Windows are going to want their GUIs.
Give me a GUI. Yeah.
I'm more command line.
Got a fellow Windows guy here. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you for coming and spending your time listening to us.